Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dion's Daily Dose for, what is it, Monday? Yeah, Labor Day, September 7th, 2020, obviously. I want to talk to you about responsibility. There seems to be some confusion out there when it comes to the statement, I back the blue, right? You get those people that seem to believe that the root of all evil in this country is law enforcement. And it boggles my mind. I'm going to tell you, I worked at Indiana State Prison, and while I worked there, there was a correctional officer that attempted to smuggle something in. They were caught, and they were prosecuted. Now, much like with police officers, correctional officers hate dirty officers because it gives them a bad name. The last thing that I wanted was to work with someone who was potentially putting my life in danger by being too friendly with convicted murderers, rapists, dangerous people, right? Now, look, we can go back and forth as to the numbers of people that are in jail versus not, versus, how many actually did it and all that. All of that, realistically, is irrelevant for this discussion. And I'm going to tell you why. As a former member of law enforcement, but, correctional officers are the redheaded stepchild of law enforcement. They aren't really... we don't have arrest powers. We don't have anything like that. I'm going to tell you, though, that we still strive to uphold an image, right? And we still do our best. We go to work every day, make sure that people on the outside can be safe from the people on the inside. Police officers every day go out there and they put their lives at risk in order to maintain a civilized society. Are there issues with the laws? Absolutely, right? I know of a ton of laws that are on the books that shouldn't even be on there or are outright ridiculous. That said, police officers, men, women, do not make the laws. Your legislators do. Those are the people that really need to feel the ire of the laws that you don't want. And another thing is how hard it is to get rid of laws that shouldn't be on the books. But let's talk about back the blue, right? Does it mean that all officers 100% of the time do everything right and there should be no? Of course not. Of course not. That's what a straw man argument, a fallacy. There are people that push that's what you mean by back the blue, and there's terms and all of that, bootlicker and all this. Police departments, police officers are absolutely critical for a civilized society, and I support the men and women of law enforcement. If a person commits a crime, they should be charged, and this does not absolve police officers. We can talk about qualified immunity. Personally, I think I have a little deeper understanding of qualified immunity than the average person does, because I'm going to tell you, as a correctional officer, you are not covered by qualified immunity. Police officers are, because if they had to deal with frivolous lawsuits all day, every day, they would never be able to do their jobs. As a correctional officer, people that I worked with have been sued. If you go back and you look at when I had Ralph on, he's a steel worker. He used to be a correctional officer. He got sued for something ridiculous that isn't even true. And this is the kind of thing that qualified immunity seeks to prevent. I don't know where we're going to be next year, heck, even next month, right? We are seeing lawlessness rampant throughout the country in our major metropolitan areas. I think I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I support the right to peacefully protest anything you deem as an injustice. If you think that the police department should be required to wear pink tutus and you want to go out and you want to march for that, you have the right to. You have the right to have your voice heard. You have the right to address your government for grievances. You do not have the right to burn personal property, to destroy personal property, to injure others. You don't have that right. That's called breaking the law. Many of us understand that personal responsibility is critical to leading a good life, a normal life. You can only blame other people for your situation for so long. I'm going to tell you, when I was, and this isn't a secret, it's on my website, it's out there. I was arrested when I was 19 years old for criminal damage to coin-operated vending machines. Well, what does that mean? It means that a guy I was with sprayed salt water into the dollar bill slot of a Coke machine. They fixed those, just so you know. Don't anybody go out there and try it. And it would give you all the Cokes and change. Now, there's a very long story there that I'm going to spare you. But what it comes down to is when I was arrested for that, I could have blamed the police officer. I could have blamed my friend. I could have blamed anyone else. And for a little bit, I seriously considered, well, it's his fault for ratting me out. It's this person's fault for, getting me into that situation. It's that person's fault for not making sure that I had, enough money. All this crap, right? The bottom line, it was my choices. It was my responsibility. And I took responsibility. I did what I had to do, and I turned my life correctional officer many years later. How I was able to become an over-the-road truck driver, and how I'm able to run for office now. Because there are rules, right? But you have to take responsibility for your actions. It is not everyone else's fault. If you commit a crime, you have to take responsibility for that. I did. I am not any better than you. I am not any worse than you. We are all the same, regardless of the color of our skin, regardless of where we originate, regardless of the way we were brought up. We all have equal value. We are all human beings. Before you go out there and you start burning down a town or creating issues for your fellow Americans, remember that these people have just as much value and just as much right as you do. And if you're on their property, they actually have more rights than you do. I think this is a big confusion when it comes to some of the events that are happening across the country right now. If you are going on to private property, the property owner has more rights than you do. A lot of things can be avoided. If you stay the heck off of other people's property, quit breaking their stuff, leave people alone. There are ways to address what you believe may be legitimate grievances with your government, with your community, with many institutions. But the way to do that does not involve burning other people's stuff, destroying other people's stuff, or assaulting other people. That's just going to get you hurt. Personal responsibility is a foundation. It's a foundation of what makes America the amazing country that it is. You know, there's some curriculum that's out there right now being pushed in our school districts. Real quick, Jack, hey, good to see you. Um, and as a parent, I am very concerned about some of this curriculum. I'm very concerned about what this is doing and creating. I urge you, if you have students in school, make sure you understand what they're being taught. I'm not going to get into it at great length here, but I'm going to tell you anything that attacks this country, I'm going to have a problem with. Anything that sets up people as less than anyone else, I'm going to have a problem with. And it doesn't matter whether that curriculum, white people are evil, Asian people are evil. None of that is okay, because this is how we ended up with some of the darkest chapters in our history, by believing that anyone of another race was less than someone of another race. That's the inherent definition of racism. There are terms thrown around like reverse racism and things like that. Racism is racism, period. If you judge someone based on the color of their skin, that is racism. If you believe that someone is less valuable than someone else because of the color of their skin, that is racism. Again, I urge everyone, if you have children, especially in public school, learn what your children are being taught. This is not something that's going to go away. It's ramping up. It's absolutely ramping up. I'm a firm believer in teaching my children the things that they need to succeed in life, and that what I mean by that is taking responsibility for their actions. If you go and you hang out with, let's say a group of 3 people, right? And those 3 people like to break into places, they like to rob people, they like to do criminal activities. There's a very good chance that you're going to end up in police custody. Even if you yourself may not have done anything wrong. Is that right? That's debatable. But I'm going to tell you, you are judged by the people you associate with. Absolutely. And I could go back to my issues with the law in my teen years and say, well, it's because I was hanging out with that guy. And that's partly true. But ultimately, it was my decision to hang out with the people that I hung out with, which directly led to me being involved in some of the situations that I was involved in, like the criminal damage thing, right? Is it? And it is. It's a stupid charge. It's a ridiculous teenage thing to do. And I've completely changed my life around. I've talked about it on my Twitter thread. I've talked about it in videos before. You don't have to limit yourself. You don't have to blame everyone else for your situation. I'm not going to make this political. I could by going down this line where this party says this and that party says that. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to tell you is that you are the master of your destiny. You are in charge of what happens. You are in charge of what you do with your life, whether that is by becoming better educated, whether that is by learning skills, whether that is by becoming involved in your community, in politics, in whatever calls to you, whatever appeals to you. There are ways that you can influence positive change without hurting people, without burning down stores and businesses. And it's infuriating. Look, I understand the passion involved, right? And especially in youth, the 15 to 24 crowd ish, you've got all this passion. You really want to do something. And you're told, well, the way to do that is by going out and doing this. Okay. Yeah. You are ultimately responsible for the decisions that you make. I guess that's really what it comes down to. how much more time are we going to spend? How much time are we going to waste by blaming law enforcement, by blaming the brave men and women that patrol our streets and keep us safe for the bad decisions that led people getting arrested to become arrested in the first place? Are there examples of bad cops? Absolutely. There are examples of bad correctional officers, examples of bad pastors and government officials and school board members and teachers, and every career, every profession has a small percentage of people that are not good people. A profession does not automatically make you a good or bad person, right? But we have to start taking responsibility. And part of taking responsibility, and again, in my opinion, is actively choosing things that we do or don't do. One of those things is, let's look, for example, at some of the things that are happening across the nation. Coming out and saying and marching for someone before all the facts are in, before officers even have an opportunity to be charged for something that they may or may not have done. Many times people get hurt in these large scale marches, in these riots that many of them turn into. I'm not telling you don't get involved. I'm telling you definitely get involved. Make sure you understand the facts. There are so many examples right now of fake news, of people twisting stories for either political gain or monetary gain. Look at organizations that are asking you to donate to them, and politicians too, and look at what they stand for. So that's pretty much where I'm at, ladies and gentlemen. Personal responsibility is an absolutely critical facet of our society today, and it's made America the best country in the world, in my opinion. So obviously, you see my Trump sign here. This is the sign that I have for $10 minimum donation. You can get a sign along with the yardstick. I will deliver it to you if you like, or I'll even put it in for you, or someone will, using that kind of as a way to get some Trump out there, and also to generate donations, right? Because look, all other things aside, campaigns take money. Not only does it take gas to put in my truck to go knock all these doors, there are shirts, there are signs, there are handouts, there are business cards, there are ads, and we haven't even gotten into ads yet. We'll run a couple of banners while I read. Remember, you can learn more about me at dionbergeron.com, or follow me on social media at Dion for Indiana. That are going on recently with the campaign. I got this request to sign a thing about term limits, and I firmly believe in term limits. I've talked about that before. These career politicians, they turn representation into a career. That's an issue on a lot of different levels. And I understand that there are a few people out there that are like, well, it's the voter's choice, right? And it is. However, let's look at a lot of our positions on local level. They have term limits. Let's see here. Council members, it may vary, right? I know that I think treasurer has a certain amount of time you can be. Obviously, president, we've talked about that. 2 terms, that's it. Why do we have term limits for a president, but we don't for a congressman, congresswoman, senator, state representative? None of these people have term limits. Why is that? I would argue that you can generate a lot more money as a congressman, congresswoman, senator than you can as president, because you get all these lobbyists that march into your office wanting this and wanting that. They present you with these bills that they've conveniently had written up. Council on Foreign Relations. There's many more. I'm not going to get into all of them, but Remember that you can communicate with me directly. You can go to my website if you would like to donate. It would be greatly appreciated. I could really use it, and you can make sure that your voice is heard in Indianapolis. Um, you can email me, talk@dionbergeron.com. And more important than anything else, get involved. Get involved locally, get involved nationally. Look at what is being put out there and use discernment. This is something that you don't hear a lot of people talk about. When they start sharing information, whether that information is true, false, unsubstantiated, we're going to reference anonymous sources for a moment. Anytime someone speaks anonymously, you have to question the motive or whether it's even real. Um, and we've all seen the. I'm sure by now someone has heard about the Atlantic story about Donald Trump saying some very disparaging things about our military. Uh, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Just going to put that out there. I don't believe he said any of that. We have John Bolton, who has come out. Who look, I don't like Bolton. I think he's a war hawk. I think he's a good person, but that's my opinion. Even Bolton, who can't stand Donald Trump, has said he can't stand Trump. Has come out and said he didn't say that. I was there for the conversation they're talking about, and that never happened. Use discernment. Do your best to verify whether things are true or false. And a lot of times that can actually influence what your actions are, because there are many people who have kind of gone off the deep end and done things that they never would have done had they had accurate information. There's a story that I just read about a female, right? I think it was in Russia, maybe. She went to school. She started this rumor that her dad had assaulted her. A couple of her friends got together. They went and they killed the dad. They beat him to death. They had forensic interviews with her afterwards, and it turns out that she made the stories up for attention. Now a man lost his life because someone wanted attention. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. It really is, because it shows you how easily people are swayed. Just do your best to verify things. I know it's hard. We live in an era of fake news, right? We live in an era of get it fast. Doesn't matter if it's right. Put the story out. But the way this ties together is we are learning more and more about some of these cases that have polarized the nation. They have been grabbed and held up as shining examples of why this person is bad and this person is good, or this organization is bad and this organization is good. And as we learn more about the things that have happened in these various cases, we learn that it's not quite as cut and dried as everyone made it out to be. There are far more factors to consider. There are lots of additional factors in many cases. So before you go and you start marching for a cause you believe in, make sure the cause is right. Make sure that the information you have is accurate, especially before you go burning things down and hurting people and assaulting people, because that could forever change your life and the lives of other people. And for what? For what? So thank you very much for joining me once again. I appreciate it. I'm going to give you my last little banner here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most important election probably of my lifetime, for sure, possibly of yours. 2016 was important, but this is critical. It's absolutely critical. And I'm going to tell you, there have been some things that Trump has said where I've gone, oh man, no. Did he really? Yeah, he really did say that. I've seen the clips. Yeah, he said it. But actions, the actions that the man has taken, the things that he has done, I absolutely support him. And I will continue to support him no matter what lies and what slander that the left chooses to embrace moving forward. And I'm going to tell you, if you think if you think the fake news is done, no. As we get closer and closer to the election, I expect more and more garbage to be shared, more and more anonymous sources, more and more, oh, I heard it from this person who heard it from that person. And we, as the public, we have to discern because our news media is not going to do it for us. I pray for discernment. I pray that God will show me what's true and what's not. I ask that He help me to make my way through the mountain of information that's out there. If you are a believer, I suggest that you do the same. Obviously, you do whatever it is in your heart that tells you to do. Again, thank you for joining me. It's been a couple of days. Just so you know, I do have single issue videos that will be coming out soon. I'm trying to make them a little better and polished than the last one I did. Still working on the I know I say a lot. I'm trying to knock that down. It's gotten better. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can always reach out to me on social media at Dion for Indiana. You can email me, talk@dionbergeron.com. And remember, God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the U.S.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2020. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.